be asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Let's be free with Now looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts.
Hi, I'm Emily from Minor DIY, and for the Cricut Card Summit, I made the photo easel card. And you can see it folds flat to mail here. And then you can write your message on the inside, or even add another photo if you want. And then the recipient can set it up and display it on their shelf or their mantle or their office, wherever, so they can see your smiling face. This one I did of the girls. Yeah, it was their first real South Dakota winter. And wouldn't that be so fun to send to the grandparents, right? Who wouldn't love to have a picture of their grandkids sitting up? So on my site, I especially like to see I like to do projects with lots of cardstock and lots of photos. I mean, I figure we all got into crafting for one of the reasons is to really personalize things, right? Really make them special for something. And what is more special than photos? They are all totally personal. It's something I'm really passionate about. I have a workshop all about it. I love making pop-up cards and explosion boxes and lots of fun paper crafts that move, and especially with photos. So if you have any questions, please do put them in the chat so I can answer them. Carolyn asks, how do you bring your JPEG pictures into Cricut Design Space? It doesn't work for me. So I honestly just drag and drop them. So you start uploading like you do for an SVG, upload, and then instead of the SVG, you just put your JPEG in there. Do you get an error message, or what happens? Does it just not work? Sometimes it does take a while. If your photo is really, really big or high quality, it could crash Design Space actually. There could also be a problem with the JPEG if like the file name has some weird character in it, or if it happened to be corrupt or something. Does this happen with PNG files too, or only like one certain JPEG? If it's just one certain JPEG, I would say for sure that it's just a bad file, and to like resave that file, like if it's from your phone, try to resave it to your computer and then redo it again. I hope that helps. My favorite photo paper. So actually what I like to use is a printable vinyl paper. So it's very similar to photo paper. I did actually, this one right here. So these are my 4 kids here. And so it's sticker paper, but it's like glossy photo paper. And that way you don't have to use glue on your photos too, which, you know, can get a bit messy. So I do print and cut with that. This is the Zicoto sticker paper. I believe it's actually called Zicoto Printable Glossy Waterproof Vinyl Sticker Paper or something like that. So if you go to my website, which is Minor DIY, right on the top, there is a supplies link, and it'll be listed in there if you want to have a direct link to it. And that's my favorite. Other than that, honestly, I often just use the photo paper I can get at Walmart. I live in kind of a small town, so it's either Amazon or drive an hour to get something if you can't get it at Walmart. So I honestly just buy a huge, like the everyday photo paper from Pen and Gear. I always use glossy though. I think it is definitely a lot nicer if you use glossy. But I just use, a cheapy one. So Lucy from Paper Glitter Glue says, do you modify the size of your photo before uploading? So most of the time, I do not. If you're using a ton of photos, for example, like a photo explosion box where you might have hundreds of photos, then yes, I would, because it takes quite a bit of time to upload everything. And the bigger the photos are, and the more you have in one project, the more likely Design Space is to crash. So I try to, I make them a bit smaller then, but that's the only time I really do. I figure if I'm just working with like 4 photos in a project, the time it would take me to resize it or worry about it balances out the time that it takes to the speed of loading. Are PNG files easier to use in Cricut Design Space? No. So the basic difference as far as Design Space goes is PNG files can have a transparent background. So for example, if I upload like a sticker or something, which has like a funny shape around the edge, then Design Space would cut that out. When I upload a photo, it's always going to be a square or a rectangle. That's it. Whatever you scanned it in at. And it'll always just cut around there. Does that make sense? Ooh, Deborah asks, what's your opinion on Cricut printable vinyl? I have to say I haven't tried the Cricut version yet. I have a good friend, Jen, of Well Crafted Studio, and she is a sticker fanatic. So I tried her suggestion, and I did try one other one too at the suggestion of someone else. And Zicoto has just been my favorite so far. And so I haven't changed. So I can't honestly say what the Cricut printable vinyl's like. Sorry. Ooh, Brandy's asking if I have any fun events coming up. Well, so I've started to do some kind of craft along live events. One of them is for the things we're doing that are in the VIP pass, if you have that. So one of my most popular projects on my blog is a pop-up unicorn. This is a brand new one. This is the Christmas version, and it is only available in the VIP pass right now. And so I've done craft along. So the next one will probably be with that. Here is the Valentine version for that. And I also have a rainbow version. So that's super fun. So if you have the VIP pass, definitely download that from the bundle. Also in progress, I have a pop-up card workshop that I'm working on. This is one of them for and it's all twist and pop cards. So I have just a ton of twist and pop cards coming up. On my site, another super popular one. Have you ever wanted to hug someone like in the mail? Now you can. So you can send somebody a big hug in the mail. Thanks, Deb. Susan is asking, besides photo cards, what are my other favorite projects? Mostly paper crafting. So this is another super fun one. So this is really fun. Have you guys seen one of these before? So it's just a little box, and all you do is just pull out this, and these are pop-up cubes. And so these are moving paper is one of my most fun projects. So super fun. That, and yep, Lucy's asking, are those on your website? Yes, they are. You can look for pop-up cubes, or it's in the sidebar usually, or on the CCS page. There's a picture of them that's pop-up cubes. Super fun. Other favorites are explosion boxes. I'm sure you've probably all seen that before. I like to show everybody how it is actually possible to make them explode, meaning the sides like actually fall all the way down. You don't have to push them down. And Jen of Well Crafted Studio asks, what is my favorite type of glue for paper? So I have two favorites. One is the Barely Art Precision Crafting Glue with that really, really fine little tip, which is perfect for tiny little pieces, like these little tiny flowers. That and the reverse tweezers make it pretty easy to put on. And my other favorite is the Beacon 3-in-1 Advanced Crafting Glue. And I like that one because it kind of slides into place. So on a lot of my projects, for example, let's look at the photo card. So I'm quite picky when it comes to the edges. Like I want to get it lined up just right. So I find like if you use a tacky glue, like once you put it down, it's down. So with the Beacon glue, you can actually just kind of like slide it into place just to get it just right before it sets. So those are my two very favorites. Beacon also never, ever, ever wrinkles the paper, even if you slap it on. Whereas in a lot of the glues, like especially like art glitter glue, it can be pretty wet. So if you use a bit too much of it, it will wrinkle your paper. Shelly is asking, do you talk about designing your own in the pop-up workshop? Yes. So I'm giving you a whole bunch of different bases and mechanisms to design your own. So for example, the one I did with the pictures. So I give you the base of the 4, and then I'm showing you lots of different options to make it your own. One of my favorite ones, let's see, it's to show you just how to write a message. Of course, I can't find it right now. too many options here. But in my example, I wrote, I really want to find it. It's really good. It's here it is, my plot twist card. So have you ever had a situation where you're just like, oh my God, nobody's expecting this? So I give you the front of the card, plot twist. And now this is not my situation, I promise, disclaimer. But so the example I'm using is we're having twins. So that's a plot twist, right? So I show you how to do all kinds of different messages of your own in the middle. Carla asks, what is my most complex pop-up that you love a challenge? Oh, I would say that my most complex project is the photo explosion box. Because there are many, I think 17 different types of, I call them interactive elements that you can make. And I mean, lots of folding and choosing and pictures. That's definitely the most complicated project. And I do have a workshop on doing that because there's so many different options. And that's on my website too. On the menu, if you go right at the top under workshops, you can learn more about that. I'd say I don't have like super complicated ones. Things like the unicorns, like they take a while because there's quite a few little pieces, but they're not actually that complicated. Not yet. Barbara asks, am I going to have a craft along anytime soon? Yes, I am. I think that I will almost try to do them weekly starting in June. These last couple weeks of, well, before my 4 kids are home all summer are kind of crazy busy. But I will be announcing it to my email list. So just watch for those. And I'm hoping to do them kind of all summer actually, because I'm really enjoying all the events where you get to like actually talk to people. I like to do the Craftalongs on Zoom so we can actually talk to each other and see each other as we're doing it. David asks, tell us some more about your cards for hard situations. Well, so if you're new here, I guess my biggest personal tragedy is I had a brother who committed suicide. That's about almost 15 years ago now. And so I have started making cards for situations where people just don't know what to say. For example, you can see back here my last year sucked card. And that's perfect to send someone who has lost a loved one, like especially if it was only a few months before the new year. Nobody wants a card that says, oh, congratulations, have some champagne and enjoy your fireworks, when they've just gone through a personal tragedy. So lots of my cards say things about just surviving one day at a time, or I don't actually know what to say. There's nothing I can say to make it better, but just know that I really care about you. You're an amazing person. I'm thinking of you. Because that's all you can really say. There's all kinds of different messages. I have had people come to me and, message me and say, oh, so my mom has lost 3 of her 5 kids, and this one's just been diagnosed with cancer, and I need a card for her. And I remember a card in that situation I came up with that is something about, feeling like the bad news just keeps coming and coming and coming and hitting you. And, it's amazing you're still standing and you don't want to be strong anymore, but you're doing it. So lots of my messages are like that. The newest card on my site was a Mother's Day card. And it came about because a friend about 8 weeks ago, lost her 9-year-old daughter to anaphylactic shock. So this Mother's Day, with the recent loss of a child, was going to be the worst one ever. So that's what the card says. This Mother's Day is going to be the worst one ever. Lucy asks, can I show us how my explosion boxes work? I will try. I'm not so sure. Yeah, might be okay if I can kind of put it up here. And I haven't been storing this properly, so it might not go as, yeah, it's all sticky. So normally when you take off the lid, so one of the tricks is never to store them with the lid on. You should always store them flat, which I have not been doing. And so when you take off the lid, they all fall down. And inside, there's several different layers. Like this one has the birthday cake in the center. This is the birthday explosion box. On my site, the free ones are all the 3 layers. And they all have different things you can put inside of them. You can do the gift cards on the top layer. There's options for these petal envelopes, they're called. And I have different types of pullouts too, so you can put photos in. Sandy asks, which model of Cricut do I use? I have 4. So most of the time I use my Maker or my Maker 3. I also love the Explorer, my purple Explorer Air. I usually, since I'm doing paper crafting, I almost always have the stylus in it, so I don't have to change. So even though I'm using the Maker, I do have the scoring wheel, but I like to just keep the stylus in so I don't have to like load, switch, load, and measuring that mat and stuff. It's quicker if I just have the stylus in. So I almost always use the full-size version though, since the Joy doesn't score. And most of my projects are a little bit like bigger. This one actually would probably, with the long mat, would be fine for the Joy. But it also doesn't do print and cut. So for most of my projects, as long as it's a full-sized Cricut, it'll work wonderfully. Deborah says, love all the cuties peeking out in the back. Yes, these ones really are peeking, aren't they? I was obsessed for a little while getting the rainbow, but now, and I do actually love getting the variety of different things in the boxes. Like I was kind of too cheap to buy like the Cricut like X-Acto knife, but it came in a mystery box and it's really nice. Same with like a paper trimmer. I'm like, oh, I don't really need to spend money on that. But then when I got one in the mystery box, like I was super happy I did. So I like to have a good bit of materials on hand because you never know what you want to make, right? I don't want to and again, living at least an hour from an actual craft store, I don't like having to wait if I want to make something. Susan, if you've been following along, plot twist, I'm not going to ask what your most complicated craft has been. Instead, I'd like to know what craft would you never want to do again? Ooh, I like that one. I'm trying to think of what, like something super tedious, but I can't quite think of any that I would, one thing that I actually have started to try to learn how to do that, no, not my thing. Knitting. I cannot knit. And I tried once to learn like 10 years ago. And no, I would not try that again, actually. So knitting. I like to sew. I like to make Halloween costumes. I like to make, really random stuff and throw everything together. But yeah, no knitting for me. That was an awesome question, though. Susan, why do you need to store them flat? So it helps them explode more. And you don't, always have to fold them flat, but it helps them just fall better. I find the paper kind of starts to want to like stick up in the same way. Same with like the pop-up cubes. when they're just in that position for so long, it makes it harder for the paper to just spring out again. So it just makes them explode a little bit better if you do store them flat. Barbara asks, where did I get my paper shelves? So the big white thing here is from Target. Ordered that online. I saw Jennifer Maker's, like, what does she call it? Like the paper Tower of Power, I think, something like that. So I tried to make that. My husband cut all of the boards and she just hot glued them in, but I couldn't get that to work. They all just fell and fell and fell. We couldn't get tools in there. So what I ended up doing, you probably can't see it, I went to the dollar store and I bought those like no name brand Jenga games for $5. And so they're pretty narrow. So right in between every shelf is a Jenga cube. There's 4 Jenga cubes in there. And then this is just foam core. So I made them. Oh yeah, and right here is vinyl, just to make it a little bit nicer in the white. So that's how I made my shelves. Looks like, yep, I'm just gonna say, looks like it's about time to wrap up. So if you have any other questions, feel free to email me, drop me a line on my site, whatever. I'm happy to answer it. So thank you so much for joining me in the live.